Hello, and thank you for tuning in Neptune Knives. So, here's our website. I don't know if you guys have ever been on it, but we also sell knives. And today I want to talk about the military. I had put this under my Spyderco section because I needed to sell more knives, specifically maybe Spydercos, because Spydercos are good. And the military has always been a popular model. I myself personally have never owned a military until the last video that I did talking about this military fluted with titanium, which I thought was just awesome. But unfortunately now, if you can see here, it's been put in the category of knives I cannot sell, and then there's many reasons I want to go over why, and I have to suggest that you don't get this knife. And if you can, choose a Paramilitary 2, Paramilitary 2, or the Sage, or other models that they have. And the main reasons are the screws. When we finally had to take this knife apart, and you're going to have to one day because that new stainless steel lockbar area is going to build rust. We took it apart, and the first thing we noticed is these screws, they can strip easy. They're very small. We're talking you twist, and you're like, uh-oh, it's screw. It's you couldn't break the. You tried to break the loctite, and it's stripped a little bit. And you put the screwdriver back in, and you do it one more time, and it slides again. You're like, oh man. And then you screw one more time, and it comes off. But you know that screw is almost gone. You're like 60% the way. And that's what these screws are. They're very small and fragile, and all the screws except for the pivot are that style. Now, the main thing for me then is that if you're going to use this in any situation, a knife is a tool that should last and be able to be taken apart, put together many times, and not have to worry. This is not one of those. When you use this knife, you need to, it's for very light cutting tasks. And why I say that is because all of the spacers here are not nestled except for the stop pin and this little lanyard hole that's just pushed in. So that's very interesting because on the Sage and the Paramilitary, they're nestled. So this handle won't move that in those directions. This one can, and that's not particularly important because this knife was meant for just slicing. But what really got to me was that the pivot here, the spacer here, that's the stop pin, was not machined perfectly. On the Sage, it is. That just because this is made in Taiwan doesn't mean it's made poorly. It means it's too expensive to make in the U.S. and you have to pay too much for it. That stop pin is, for example, so machined perfectly that if you put a layer of Teflon tape or even in between, this pin wouldn't close down and the Sage blade would be uncentered, which I experienced. But on this one, what happens when we took it apart and then that pin rotated a little bit because it's not stationary, it's two screws that go into each one of these spacers. So there's three screws on each side. It moved a little bit, it rotated, and that pin is not machined into a perfect circular tube. So when this opens, that no longer locked up right, and now sometimes when you open the military, it doesn't lock like right now. You see? You have to actually, you can either push it, or if you wave it harder, it locks right. And that's because the tolerances here are not tight, to where if there is an impact there, there's movement. Slight movement that can change, see, it didn't lock up again, how it locks up. So to me, that means that this knife had to be made more by a custom knife maker. To get that preciseness. And that's probably why this pin had a lot of Loctite, not only on the threading of the screws, but all around the screws so that the pin wouldn't even move. And now that that's happened, we put together the blade is not centered. So this is a knife for light cutting tasks. I mean, it'll take forever to wear. This is a stainless steel lockup, stainless steel blade with a stainless steel lock bar and a stainless steel pen. Stainless steel is harder than titanium, so it'll take a long time to wear that out. But if the knife you were to chop with it and it received a little bit more positive force than you would do with light cutting tasks, I mean force this way, then this stop pin and the lockup is going to start to wear unevenly. That's not really a big issue. It's just the thing is to consider is just that this is not a knife for serious outdoor use or tactical use, in that there's a lot of areas of rust. Three spacers with two screws on each side of the spacers that screw together. Thin screws that are very fragile and could break with any torsion forces, any twisting forces of the handle, because these spacers are not nestled. And then you can't take apart the screws over and over and over. I mean, as it is now, I don't even want to take it apart ever again because we're already just pushing our luck. It's meant for more of a light use. But what makes that contradiction is now it has a lot of areas of maintenance, and therefore it makes it kind of necessitates cleaning, but you can't clean it without risking damaging the screws. You know, so I would say that this is a knife you have to be very careful with. You know, you cut only with the blade and don't get anything else dirty. I mean, if it were to rust outdoors, you know, it's not going to last. You know, there are some pros. The clip is in a good position. This tip down carry is great because when you pull it out of your pocket with your right hand and you pull it out, you just pull and turn it towards you and then flick it open. And it doesn't need a hinder stabilizer lock because this area is so thick that the stop bar doesn't get pushed that direction. You know, and there is that, of course, this direction lock stop. But overall, I mean, not what I recommend. Paramilitary 2 screws much better. Spacers are nestled in there to provide more durability. Same thing with the Sage. All these screws, bigger spacers, better lockups. You know what I mean? This is all more consistent and reliable. So I have to say it's a disappointment for me on this military.